Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about my NEWTS wrap up, and we're going to go over all the books that I read for the Magical Readathon. So my first class for the Magical Readathons was Charms. I needed to get an E in this class, so that's 2 different prompts. The first prompt was A, which is a book that you think has a gorgeous cover, and so for this one I chose Pride by Ibi Zoboi. This one, I believe I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. It was a decent story. It was a remix telling of Pride and Prejudice, except with people of color in New York. And it was an interesting storyline, but I did find that the main character was kind of hypocritical at times, and that kind of bugged me as I was reading it. I really did enjoy a lot of the backstory and the way that it kind of progressed, but it was just this little thing about the main character that just kept like gnawing away and bugging me as I was reading it, which kind of brought me down a little bit and ended off leaving it at a 3-star. I will say that the author did a really good job with describing things in this book. She gave everybody really unique and interesting personalities, and she also did a great job of describing like the set, so like all the different places that the story took place. It was also cool to read about a large family because I personally like come from a family of being an only child, so I didn't get to experience having lots of brothers and sisters, so it was kind of nice to like experience Zuri's brothers and sisters through like her and her interactions with all of them and all their unique like quirks that they had. But yeah, solid book. Right in the middle, 3 out of 5. To get the E in Charms, I needed to read a graphic novel or a book of 150 pages or less. And for this, I chose the Red Rising Sons of Ares graphic novel that Marcus gave me for my birthday. This book is a prequel series. Well, not a series. It's a prequel graphic novel to the series. And I really enjoyed the book. The only thing I didn't really like about it was the art style. I wasn't a big fan of the art style of this, and I think it would have done a lot better if it had the art style of some of my favorite like Marvel Comics and DC Comics illustrators. That being said, the storyline was really well done, and it gave you a lot of insight into before the series happened and, well, the kind of like rise of Ares. So it's a good prequel graphic novel to read if you've read the Red Rising series. You will understand it a lot more if you've read the series. But yeah, I would recommend this one. I gave it a 4 out of 5. The next class I needed to complete was Defense Against the Dark Arts, and this one I needed to get an O in it, so that's 3 different prompts. So the first prompt was to do a book that had black under the dust jacket. So for this one I chose Husky by Justin Sayer, and this one was black under the dust jacket. Well, it's very yellow, but black. This book, unfortunately for me, was not my favorite. I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars, and I kind of feel like I was being nice giving it a 2. Honestly, the main character just really annoyed me, and I guess it's a preteen book, so he's aged like 12, 13, but he was so whiny throughout this whole book, and I felt no pity for him because he would have problems that would arise and they were easily solvable, or like honestly all he would have to do is actually do something about the problem to fix it, but then it would just go on with like pages and pages of him just whining about his life and everything's going wrong and nothing's working out for him, but it was all like very easily solvable solutions to his problems. And most of the time he just needed to talk to somebody, but no, it just like he didn't do it. And there were multiple times when I was reading this book where I like would slam it shut and be like, why am I still reading this book? Honestly, I feel like this probably would have been a DNF for me, but I had to finish it for the readathon or else I wouldn't have completed it. So that's probably the only reason why I finished it. I will say there was a part about opera that kind of intrigued me, where like you never really see main characters that have an affinity for opera, and I kind of wanted to see more of that and see him like explore that love of that like type of music genre because it's so unique. But you didn't get very much of it. Like, it gave you some, but not a lot. And I don't know, I feel like this book was just kind of misleading. I found out it's also a series, and I'm like, not picking up the rest, that's for sure. Also, there is a lot of descriptions of bakery desserts in this book, and I was getting very hungry while reading this. The second prompt for Defense Against the Dark Arts was to read the first book that came to mind on your TBR. And this one was a book that I didn't finish the previous month, so it was the first thing that came to my mind, and that was Rise and Run by R.J. Plant. I have successfully finished it now. And this one was the sci-fi book about a guy that was kind of like genetically modified so that he has a split body with his brother, but they're both a consciousness in this body, and they're kind of like fighting for control over the body that they're physically trapped in, the two of them. It's a sci-fi book. It's kind of set in like a dystopian future, and he is he's hired by this company to be like kind of like a hired mercenary, like hired gun, and he's supposed to go on a mission that involves this company that's developing this drug that could be used for warfare, but he's on this mission to go find the scientist that's working on this drug. Anyway, it was very interesting. I found it was a little jumpy from spot to spot during the plot. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 because I would like to read more in this series, but it was just very jumpy. But a cool thing about it is that a lot of it was set in Ireland, which is a place that I find not a lot of books are set in. So I liked reading about Ireland and the different locations that were listed in this book. Also, the main character, well, one half of the main character was really fun and entertaining to read about, so I liked that character. Yeah, I would suggest picking this one up if you got the chance. The final prompt for Defense Against the Dark Arts was to read a book set in England or written by an English author, and for that I chose The Savages by Matt Wyman. This book was really fun. It was about I thought it was a middle grade book when I started reading this, but the more that I read it, I would honestly picture this more as like a young adult book due to some of the graphic content in it. But it's about a family of monsters or cannibals. They eat humans, and the daughter is dating a boy who is a vegetarian, and he's trying to turn her into a vegetarian. So she's kind of like trying it out and seeing if she likes it. And her family is not very approving of this. They're very hardcore in their ways and set on the fact that like historically they were cannibals, so she needs to be one too. So this story is about her and her experience with vegetarianism and kind of learning what she likes rather than living life by what her family has taught her to be like. The book was a lot of fun. There is so many different like layers to this book that I think it would be very enjoyable to read for anyone, really. Although I would say not a younger audience, just because, like I said before, some of the graphic content that's in here. But yeah, I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and this was the one that helped me finish my Defense Against the Dark Arts class. The next class I had to complete was Herbology, and for this one I had to either listen to an audiobook or read a book with a green cover, and because I'm not really a big fan of audiobooks, I decided to do the green cover. So I did Last Call at the Nightshade Lounge by Paul Kruger. This book was a 5 out of 5 for me. I really enjoyed this book. This was the one that was about magical drinks. So whenever you mixed a certain alcoholic beverage, it would become like glowy, and then it would give the drinker a magical ability or superpower. I would call them more superpowers because they use these abilities to fight demons. So that's pretty badass. But yeah, it's like there were drink recipes throughout the book. Here, let me see if I can find one for you. Like this, they had examples at the end of chapters where they would tell you what is in the drink. So first of all, you're getting knowledge on bartending, and then it would give you like the description of what that drink would do, so what kind of power it would give you, and it would give you the historical background on the alcohol and its magical properties. This book captured me right away. I was along for the ride. It had some Canadian rep in it, so that was awesome. The main character and some other side characters were persons of color, So it was a very diverse book. And it was just so much fun. Like, I had a great time reading this book. I couldn't put it down. I just wanted to keep reading the next chapter and then the next chapter, but I really wanted to get to like the end of chapters because of the specific like drink recipes and their magical properties. It was cool because as you see other people drinking different drinks, and later on as it goes through, you're like, oh, they must have had this drink because this is the power they have right now, and you kind of like categorize in your brain what the different drinks do. So yeah, I had a great time with this book. Oh, and for genre, it's an urban fantasy. Also, this is a debut book from the author, so that's pretty cool that he came out with like such a fun book on his debut. The next class I had to read was potions, and so for this one I had 2 prompts. The first prompt was to read your friend's favorite book. Naturally, I chose Marcus for this one, and his favorite book is The Warded Man by Peter V. Brett. This book is the start of a series. It's for an epic fantasy series. The rest of the books are, they're on the shelf. You can kind of see some of them here, but they're like, not all of them are visible. The basic concept of this one was every nightfall, demons or corlings rise from the ground and wreak havoc on the world. And so what people can do to protect themselves is use these things called wards that are like these little symbols that they can draw or paint on things, and they're kind of like a magical barrier against these demons. This book definitely gets dark, and I think that added to its storytelling because not everything is always rainbows and butterflies. People will live or die based on decisions that they make every day, and that's the feeling that you kind of get with the 3 main characters in the book. They all bring something unique to being able to fight against the demons. And so it's really cool when you get to see all their different perspectives of how they kind of discover their way of helping and fighting against this reign of chaos. The author has built a massive world in this book, and you get to see all the different places. Well, not all of them, but a lot of the different places, as you're split into 3 different perspectives. And so I think that that's really cool that he allows you to explore a lot of his world that he's created. And I'm pretty sure that you're going to get to explore a lot more of it further on in the series. Also, the demons are straight up scary. Like, I would not want to come face to face with any of these demons because I feel like I would just die. I would strongly recommend this for anybody that likes epic fantasy. I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 rating. The second prompt for potions was to read a book in your Hogwarts house color. And as we all know now, my Hogwarts house is Hufflepuff. So I decided to read Landline by Rainbow Rowell. This was more from her like adult work, so it wasn't exactly the same vibe that I got reading this book than when I read Eleanor and Park. It's definitely different from her YA. That being said, I still enjoyed it. However, I do feel like it went a little slow. This book follows the main character, Georgie, and she's having marital issues with her husband. And she stays home to work on a show because she is a show writer, while her husband takes the kids to go visit his mom for Christmas. And so she tries to call her husband through a landline back at her house, or her parents' house. And through that landline, she connects to her husband of the past when he's still young and they're both in love. And so throughout the book, she talks to her husband from the past to try and fix her problems with her husband of the present. It was an interesting book. I feel like it could have had probably a better second half to it, but I still would give this a 3 out of 5 stars, and I would still pick up Rainbow Rowell's other works. I just think I'm personally more a fan of her YA stuff than her adult work, but I'm still glad that I read it. And my last class was Transfiguration, and for this one I needed to read a book that had LGBTQ plus rep in it. So for this one I read Sculpt Yourself by Savvy, and I liked this book. This book has 3 different perspectives in it. One is of Amber. She is a gay feminist blog writer, but she also has a day job working at an office as their kind of like tech IT person. Another character is Kelly, who works in the marketing department of this same building that Amber works in. And then the other perspective is Judy, Amber's younger sister, who works at a coffee shop. And the basis of this book is that there is this drug called lipomorph, and what it does is it allows you to take the fat on your body and put it anywhere you want, so you can kind of like mold yourself or sculpt yourself. to be the version of yourself that you want to be. Now, the effects only last for about a week or so, but the continual use of this drug will keep you in the shape that you form. And Amber is not a fan of this drug. So it's kind of the story about Amber and her, not really like attack on the drug, but like letting the world know her opinion on how she feels this drug is affecting society's views on what women's bodies should look like. It's also about relationships in this book and how this drug has brought in certain effects to these relationships and how it can be seen as good and bad. Overall, I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5. Like, I really enjoyed it. It was heavily based on like the contemporary style of dialogue and the relationship building, and Savvy did an amazing job with dialogue. She writes really funny, and I found myself cracking up a lot when reading it. Also, she talks about these things called buffalo nachos, which not buffalo nachos, barbecue nachos, which I'm actually kind of intrigued to eat. And I was talking to her while reading this book, and she told me that she might put out like a recipe book of her different like random snack foods that she makes. And so I'd be excited to see that book and try out those recipes, because honestly, they seemed a little weird, but I think they'd be good. I do believe that the plot was a little slow, but I think because of how much it was based on the dialogue and the relationship building with the different characters, that it still flowed pretty flawlessly. I wouldn't say there's that much sci-fi aspect to it, other than the aspect of the drug and being able to like morph your body, but other than that, there's not much other sci-fi in it. So yeah, I would say it's more like a contemporary with a hint of sci-fi. But I did end up enjoying it, and I'm glad that Savvy gave me the book to read so that I could use it for my prompt. And that's it, guys. I actually successfully read 9 books this month. 9. That's crazy. I've never read that many books in a month in my life. So yeah, go me. Anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, guys, keep on reading.